What's up YouTube, Fallout Freak here, and I'm back with another factions video. So in the last factions video, we did a faction video to the end-all be-all faction of Fallout, aka the Brotherhood of Steel, aka the Brotherhood of Traveling Power Armor. So in this factions video, we're going to be talking about a Fallout 4 faction, and that faction is none other than the Commonwealth Minutemen. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the Commonwealth Minutemen. The Commonwealth Minutemen, typically shortened to just the Minutemen, are a faction encountered in the Commonwealth in Fallout 4. Once a prominent powerhouse, recent years have seen them fall into a steady decline, losing much of their strength and influence, and by 2287 are nearly wiped out. Background: envisioned as a volunteer militia of settlers banding together to protect themselves, their homesteads, and their communities, similar to the Minutemen of the Revolutionary era, the Minutemen of the 23rd century also focus on defending the people of Massachusetts at a minute's notice. The statue positioned near the Old North Bridge in the Northwest Commonwealth, commemorating the original group and standing where the first shots of the Revolutionary War were fired, is considered an important symbol by the present-day group and their mission. Glory days. The Minutemen as an organization first rose to prominence in 2180 when their flag was flown while defending Diamond City against a super mutant attack. Once more settlements in the Commonwealth began to come around to accepting their aid, the Minutemen attempted to branch out through organizing a provisional government constituted by the various settlements. However, the combined effort went up in smoke when the Institute sent their own envoy, a synth, leading to the massacre of the CPG and the breakdown of any further talks of cooperation. After the loss of the CPG, the Minutemen continued their independent efforts at peacemaking, establishing a headquarters at Fort Independence in South Boston, which became known as the Castle. Part of their restoration efforts involved members including Ronnie Shaw establishing an armory within the facility, guarded by a sentry bot named Sarge. The Minutemen maintained their regional operations from the castle until 2240, when the garrison, under the leadership of the incumbent General McGann, was attacked by a giant creature said to have emerged from the surrounding ocean. I think that may have been a Mirelurk Queen, by the way. While the sea beast routed most of the Minutemen from the castle, McGann made a last-ditch effort and sealed off the armory to preserve the munitions and technology inside for the future, though he himself ultimately perished from dehydration/malnutrition, finding only a large batch of wine and choosing to meet his grim demise with a toast. Even with the loss of the castle, the Minutemen continued in their goals of responding to requests for help from nearby settlements that were being attacked and defending them fiercely. Their structure of being historically led by a general with individual contingents led by a colonel served them well in being able to deploy at a minute's notice in response to reported threats. Joe Becker was considered the last real leader of the Minutemen, so when he died in 2282, the question of who should serve as successor became a hotly debated issue. Without General Becker's stable leadership, rivalries between different groups flared up and began to cause infighting and disorganization in the larger group. The fracturing incited some members to abandon the group entirely, including James Wire and Ronnie Shaw. The Quincy Massacre, the loss of stable leadership and frequently of internal squabbles began to erode the efficacy of the group, but they still managed to continue their mission to respond to defense requests for some time after. One such request was from the citizens of Quincy, who were being attacked by a mercenary group known as the Gunners, sometime around 2287. A group of Minutemen under the command of Colonel Ezra Hollis were the first to head the call for reinforcements. Among his group at the time was Preston Garvey, a Minuteman member since the age of 17, who assisted with the residents' efforts to barricade the town against the gunners' attacks. However, Hollis knew that even with his group, they simply did not have the numbers to hold the town against a large gunner offensive, but his repeated attempts to send out requests for additional reinforcements from other Minutemen groups either went unanswered or were too slow to deploy to even matter. Shortly after Hollis's group arrived, Clint, a 10-year veteran of the Minutemen, arrived in Quincy, but not to provide reinforcements. Instead, he revealed that he had defected to the gunner side and was assisting them in taking over Quincy. He made an offer of surrender to Hollis, but with the promise that a refusal would sign his death warrant. Hollis still refused to stand down, and the gunners subsequently attacked in force using the advantage of the overpass looming over Quincy to pick off the town defenders from above. Despite their best efforts, the Minutemen could not defend against the gunners' superior numbers and position, and Colonel Hollis was captured alive, though he continued to stand by Minutemen principles until the end. When he was executed by Clint, the inhabitants of Quincy were slaughtered by the gunners, with the exception of a group of around 20 that followed the remnants of Hollis's group, now under Garvey's command, to escape from Quincy. The last Minutemen. From Quincy, the survivor group fled northwest through Jamaica Plain, managing to shake the gunners pursuing them, but losing some of their own to the gunners and other wasteland dangers. Their flight continued northwest all the way to Lexington, where they hoped to find shelter. However, their number was further depleted due to the similarly heavy infestation of feral ghouls. But the reduced group still managed to escape, reaching Concord shortly after the town was as far as they got before being beset by a group of raiders sent by Jared from the Corvega assembly plant, trapping the small group inside the Museum of Freedom. With the loss of all his Minutemen, Preston came to believe he is the last true member of the Minutemen still alive, yet remained dedicated to protect the surviving group of civilians. Once word of the Minutemen's inability to protect Quincy spread across the Commonwealth, their popularity and support fell off almost immediately, and most Wastelanders came to speak disparagingly of the group and their idealistic goals. Organization. The Commonwealth Minutemen is a paramilitary force designed to have a general to lead while delegating in-field operation commands to colonels who command individual groups. Communities aligned with the group would provide volunteers who were in turn trained and equipped by a core group of full-time Minutemen. The group's headquarters for the longest time was the castle, within which that could be found workshops, barracks, armories, and aid stations. But most importantly, a functioning radio transmitter which broadcast the Minutemen's own radio station, Radio Freedom, a continuous program of music, news updates, and requests for help that linked the disparate Minutemen together. When the Minutemen had the capability of heavy artillery within the castle in the past, the transmitter could also be used to coordinate artillery strikes, though its range was typically limited. As an all-volunteer force, the morale of its members was especially critical. The Minutemen adopted much of the terminology and practices of the former National Guard, but simplified them and introduced elements of democracy. As mentioned above, each contingent elected by the popular vote a colonel to lead them, who collectively in turn appointed a single general to act as the Minutemen's overall commander. Due to its decentralized volunteer nature, the group relied heavily on a general's charisma and leadership to prevent the splintering of its members. Let's see, technology, ideology, iconography, interactions with player character. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist of the Minutemen, and that is a little or a lot bit about the Minutemen. Let me go ahead and turn my volume and play you the I guess slogan for the Minutemen. The Minutemen
Protect the people at a minute's notice.
Yep. Exactly what Preston Garvey said. So let me see if I can pull up a picture of the... There we go. Myron's cooperating with me today. Of the Minutemen, I guess, logo. So let me go ahead and expand my desktop. Now let me get to my desktop. This is the Minutemen logo. So you see a lightning bolt with 3 stars. The lightning bolt, I guess, is separating a musket, or I guess, I don't know, compounding a musket of some sort. But either way, this is the Minutemen logo that you would see on like a Minutemen flag or something like that. So that is the Minutemen in a nutshell. Hit me up in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about the Minutemen, what you think about Preston Garvey as their leader, and what are some of your favorite factions from the Fallout video games and the Fallout franchise. But until my next factions video, you must always remember that war never changes.